JDF searching for two fishermen missing since October 29. The Jamaica Defense Force JDF says it is yet to locate two missing fishermen after 9 days of searching. The Maritime, Air and Cyber Command of the Jamaica Defense Force JDF is conducting search and rescue operations for the men since October 29. The fishermen departed Mill Cave in their blue and red vessel destined for Belmont Air in Westmoreland when they ran out of fuel. The JDF was subsequently contacted to provide assistance. The JDF says it deployed both air and marine assets in search for the fishermen between last week Tuesday and Friday and expanded their search to the south, southwestern and western areas of Jamaica. The JDF also sought assistance from the Cayman Islands Coast Guard and the Joint Rescue Coordination Center in Haiti to locate the distressed vessel. However, after an extensive search, there has been no sign of the fishermen or the vessel. The JDF is also coordinating with other regional partners in Belize, Honduras, and Guatemala and other seafarers in the off-look of the fishermen and to report any signs to the Joint Rescue Coordinating Center at 876-967-8193. Portland homeowner robbed at gunpoint. Gunmen reportedly robbed a homeowner of an undisclosed sum of money and a motor vehicle in Hope Bay, West Portland. According to preliminary reports, around 6:45 p.m., three men armed with handguns broke into a home under the cover of darkness. Inside the house, they confronted a woman who was home with her two children. Police reports indicate that the assailants kicked open the door and, upon entry, demanded money from the woman. After taking the money, one of the men restrained the children and demanded the keys for the car that was parked outside. The men then reportedly fled the scene in the stolen vehicle. Shortly after, an alarm was raised and the police were notified. Curfew imposed in sections of Lucy Hanover. A 48-hour curfew has been imposed in sections of Lucy Hanover. The curfew began at 6 p.m. yesterday and will remain in effect until 6 p.m. on Saturday, November 9. The boundaries of the curfew are north from the way of Johnstown Community to the seaside running along the coastline parallel to the main road in the easterly direction to the Eglinton Sports Complex. East from the Eglinton Sports Complex, traveling in a southerly direction to a point at the rear of Q District. South from the rear of Q District, traveling in a westerly direction to the rear of the Brissett Community. West from the rear of the Brissett Community, traveling in another direction to the rear of Johnstown Community to the seaside location. During the hours of the curfew, all persons within its boundaries are required to remain within their premises unless otherwise authorized by the gun commander. Legislators question hefty $1 million penalty for tobacco control law violation. Some legislators reviewing the Tobacco Control Act 2020 on Thursday expressed reservations about the $1 million maximum penalty be proposed by public officials who breach the interaction restriction provision imposed by the law. The Act includes a provision that restricts interaction between public employees and tobacco industry players. Under the proposed law, public officials cannot accept or solicit contributions from the tobacco industry, nor can they provide incentives, benefits, or preferential tax treatment to the industry. Public sector employees under the legislation are also prohibited from investing in the tobacco industry or related ventures, and they cannot establish or operate a tobacco business. According to the Tobacco Control Act 2020, violating any of these provisions is an offense, and the offenders may face a fine of up to $1 million or up to 3 months in prison. It is, however, proposed to remove criminal sanctions and only impose civil penalties under the legislation. Government member of the Joint Select Committee of Parliament on the Tobacco Control Act, Senator Gale, during its meeting on Thursday, questioned how the high figure was arrived at, with another government member, Shereen Golding Campbell, said she found the $1 million an excessive penalty given the offenses. And if there is no distinction between a corporate person and a human person, then I don't know. I do find it a little expensive, really excessive for a public official. I think it can be punitive and be a deterrent without having to go up to that kind of maximum, she stated. Legal consultant in the Health Ministry, Albert Edwards, explained that this is the first of this type of penalty being proposed in this legislation, noting that it is intended to be sufficiently punitive without being excessive. Chairman of the Committee, Health and Wellness Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton, chimed in to say, "Exactly, and for them, it would certainly not be excessive to go to $1 million. Maybe for others, it may be, so the courts can determine otherwise. I wouldn't argue too much about it, to be honest with you," he noted. JP Association Chair says welfare system exists to help colleagues. Chair of the St. Andrew Justice of the Peace Association, Norris Rooms, in rebuffing suggestions that corrupt acts by some Justice of the Peaces are indicative of the needs of support system for the cohort, says while no formal welfare system exists, there are mechanisms in place to help needy JPs. That assurance comes after concern raised by St. Andrew Justice of the Peace Nicholas McDavid last month. McDavid, in a letter to the editor, in pointing to a recent court case where a JP facing corruption charges claimed that financial difficulties led to him charging for his services, he said, while the actions of the JP in questions are indefensible, his situation raises significant concern about the support system available to those who dedicated themselves to public service. He went on to advocate for the much-needed discussion on the welfare and upkeep of justice of the peace, stating that the role of the JP is often demanding, requiring time, resources, and a strong moral compass, while noting that they, unlike other public servants, do not receive a stipend or financial compensation for their work. This lack of support can lead to economic constraints, particularly for those who are retired, unemployed, or otherwise financially vulnerable, McDavid contended before going on to suggest that establishment of a working group comprising representatives from the Ministry of Justice and quotas of each parish. This group, he said, would be tasked with exploring the feasibility of providing a stipend, traveling allowances, and health insurance for JPs. Rooms, responding to those suggestions through a letter to reporters, commended McDavid for bringing attention to this issue, but said while he shared the concern for those JPs who may be experiencing hardship, regardless of personal financial circumstances, JPs must never compromise their role by soliciting or accepting payment for services, and this would erode the public trust essential to our mission. According to Rooms, the SAJPA and other associations have a welfare committee dedicated to providing support for JPs in need. While no formal framework currently exists for JP health insurance and allowances, each association strives to respect and assist its members, reinforcing a community of care and accountability, Rooms maintained. I encourage St. Andrew JPs to connect with the SAJPA, identify colleagues who may need support, and volunteering their own time to strengthen our shared commitment to service. Together, we can ensure that every JP serves with integrity in keeping with our commitment to justice, the chair of the SAJPA said further. The issue of JPs collecting for their services has been a topic of discussion on numerous occasions. In September this year, Justice Minister Delroy again issued a stern warning to JPs against getting involved in the corruption, which he said extended to the outside of the tax offices across the island. We are going to be decommissioning those JPs who we know charge for their services for bringing the vacation of JP into disrepute. If you find out that you cannot do the voluntary service, give out the seal, Chuck, who was addressing the third in the series of sensation sessions put on by the Minister of Justice at the Grand Palladium Resort in Hanover. It is within the Act that no JP should charge for their services, and I know that JPs are charging, Chuck stated, while urging JPs to refuse monetary offers made to them to carry out their duties. In May this year, while addressing more than 100 newly minted judicial officers, Chuck stated, "I beg all of you from here on, try to live a life of honesty, even if you weren't before. For God's sake, I beg of you, turn over a new leaf if necessary, because I see far too many people, justices of the peace, who I know, because people complain about these JPs, how they behave and how they collect money. I beg you, even if you intend to, don't do it, because we are going to be decommissioning you if we find out, and I know it is happening across Jamaica." Remember to subscribe, like, share, and click the notification bell for daily updates.